Hi everyone, I'm Daniela, and this is the Translation Podcast, a space where we can learn, share, and grow together. Please subscribe and like the show. It will help me grow and keep this content for the community. Let's get started. Welcome everyone to the third episode of season 2 of the Translation Podcast. Today I'm filming in a studio in South London with my friend Naz.
Yes.
Naz, thank you for accepting my invitation.
Oh, it's a privilege to be on your podcast. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure, Naz. Türkü Naz Altinay is the director of Linguaphile Translation and Tutoring Limited in the UK, a qualified court interpreter and a professional translator. Having translated 5 books into Turkish, including George Orwell's 1984 and several of Freud's works, she brings not only her legal and linguistic expertise, but also a deep passion for storytelling, cross-cultural communication, and supporting individuals through accurate, compassionate, and empowering language work.
Oh.
So, Naz, what first sparked your love for books? And how did that passion evolve into a career in translation?
Well, yeah, it goes back to my childhood, I think. When I was like 6-7 years old, my mom used to buy lots of books for me, like scientific books, stories, novels, etc. And I was a shy child. I was like one of those bookworm, like witty children, and I loved reading books, so they were like an escape from me into other realities, novels, stories, etc. And when I was like 12-13 years old, Harry Potter came to Turkey, of course, and I'm still a Harry Potter fan, a Potterhead. So like I was one of those students sitting on the last row in the classroom reading books all day and not listening to the mathematics classes. Yeah. Then when I realized like books, reading, language, it's like one of my paths, like it's like a calling. Not calling, let's not say calling. I was happy reading the books, and I could forget about everything else and then be like go with the storyline and just think about the characters, etc. And later in the secondary school I took a very good education in English. My family sent me to a college, and at the high school I chose language path because it was the only subject that I was really good at without any effort, to be honest. So I was not good at maths, I was not good at science, etc., but because they require lots of memorizing and like sitting and studying. But I was natural in English, I was natural in languages, so then I took that path.
I love that. And how did that evolve into a translation career? At which stage did you decide I want to go into translation?
Oh, that's a nice question. So I studied American studies at the university. They didn't provide us much courses about translation. Only 2 semesters I took like translation course. But so when you are studying cultural studies and language, your options are very limited at the beginning, in Turkey especially. You can either become an English teacher or you can choose the path to become a translator, etc. So, of course, at first I did both of them hand in hand after I graduated. But before my graduation, my friend from the university, my classmate, asked me if I could do a translation for one of his friends who was studying nuclear medicine at the same university. She was doing her master degree, and he asked me if I can translate her master thesis dissertation, and I said, why not? I never tried it before, and it's like a very high point to jump into translation. because I have no prior experience whatsoever. But I said, okay, why not? I need money. I think I can do that. And she gave me the dissertation, and I spent like days trying to figure out the formulas and everything, all those terminology. But I have the internet at my hand, so you can always look it up from Google or try other resources. And then finally I did it, and I got my first pocket money, and I was really happy. And I said, this is cool, why not? Why shouldn't I do this as a job in the future? And later, I was visiting one of my teachers at the university, and I used to go to my teacher's room. We would talk about the classes, other stuff, and they loved me actually. And one day she received a call, and from the arts center of our school, of our university, they were looking for like 2 students that would do the translate the subtitles of a documentary series. And she hung up the phone. She looked at me. Would you like to do that? And I said, okay, why not? So then I started working as a translator, part-time translator at the weekends at our art center, our university. And I brought another friend of mine. They were looking 2 people. We were listening to music, we were in the art center, people would come, visit, and we were translating by the meantime. It was the documentary series called Power of Art by Simon Schama, actually. They were really amazing documentary series, like 5-6 episodes, I think. Leonardo da Vinci, Picasso, etc., like really greatest artists of the time. He was having documentaries, and we were translating them into Turkish so they can show these documentaries at the art center to other people.
I love that. What a great story.
Yeah.
And what a great connection to another of your passions, right?
Yeah,
the
exactly.
art.
Yeah, the art. I love art.
So, Naz, you've translated 5 books into Turkish. What does it feel to live inside an author's mind while translating their work?
Well, that's a deep question, yeah. So the first books I received for book translation, it was like an amateur publishing house, and they didn't pay really much, but I wanted to get into book translation as well. Well, there's also one other book that's never been published, because until I finished the translation, the publishing house went bankrupt.
Oh no.
Yes. So I still have the translation. It was like 300 pages of a political book. It was about the relationships between Cuba and the United States. Until Barack Obama's time, and it was a really nice book, but it's never been published. So, but the others, one of the first books I received for translation were about for Sigmund Freud's books, and there's also another person called Émile Q, a French. Well, he was like he believed in the power of thoughts. You can heal yourself with the thoughts, etc. He was kind of a mysticist and a
like
physician.
A precursor of NLP today.
Yes, like new age spiritualism. He was like one of the maybe founders. So I took that book for translation. It was easy, very simple language. But then Freud's book, oh my God, like I couldn't even understand sometimes what he was saying, because they were like written for professionals in that area, psychology. So Freud's languages can be very, very complex sometimes. So the general reader might not understand that. But later I translated George Orwell. George Orwell has been my one of the favorite writers, by the way. Now, I read his book 1984 when I was 17 years old, and my mind was blown, like wow. It was like mind-bending book for me. And Aldous Huxley's Brave New World also. I really loved them. And it was an honor for me to translate George Orwell's book, 1984. Well, there are many translations in Turkish, because after 70 years, you don't have to pay any copyrights to the writer, you know. And when that 70 years passed, suddenly all the publishing houses in Turkey started to publish George Orwell's books because they didn't have to pay any copyrights. So there are many translations of George Orwell, but the book I translated, after a few years, it was taken into like a collection. Zülfü Livaneli, he's a Turkish writer as well. Mm-hmm. I think he read my translation, and it was in among the books inside like Zülfü Livaneli collection, and that was really honoring for me. It was really nice. Translating George Orwell, his language is simple. It's not very complex. You can read it very easily. But the idea behind that, I think in some ways we are living in that world right now, 1984.
We are. Yeah. That book is still so contemporary.
Exactly.
For sure. One of those revolutionary books that stays with us for a very long time. Would you do a book translation again if a publishing company would ask you, or the other way around? I think there's a newer trend. I see this in Romania as well, where they translate Romanian younger authors or contemporary authors into English. So there is an appetite for Eastern European culture.
I would like to translate, yes, I would like to do a book translation, but not for Turkish publishing houses, because it's not really in a good state, the publishing sector in Turkey right now, and they can barely keep up with the expenses, etc. So they don't pay much to the book translators in Turkey. I have friends who are earning their lives through book translation, but they are very prolific, they translate a book every 1 month, every 2 months. So for me, it took like 1.5 years to finish George Orwell's book. So maybe I could do this as a hobby, not as a source of income in the future, because there's something satisfying with book translation, because you have a piece, it belongs to you. Like when you translate a book, you are an artist as well, because you wrote a whole book in your own language, So you are considered as an artist as well. So it is very satisfying in that sense. And even after you're gone, your book is going to be read by other people, like 50 years later or 100 years later. I don't know if they are still publishing that translation, of course. So it is like one of the ways to become immortal. Translation job, especially book translation, I think is a very honorable job, but it doesn't get what it deserves. So you don't get what you deserve when you are translating books. I'm talking in Turkey sense, but if I was offered for a book translation from Turkish to English, which I never done that, because I always translated from English to Turkish, of course I would consider that. And there are many amazing writers, Turkish writers, that need to be translated into English, and I think the whole world needs to hear their voices. For example, one of them is Sabahattin Ali, Madonna in Fur. It is one of the most amazing books in contemporary Turkish literature, and it was translated into English, and it sold like 30,000 copies in the UK. Yeah, I just saw that recently. So we have amazing writers, especially in the late 20th or 19th century, and of course I would love to be a translator for their voices.
Yeah, for sure. That's something you can explore. I think in the UK, the publishing sector is much richer, and I would love personally to read more Turkish books into English. Which leads me to the next question: when did you realize that languages could become a profession rather than just a passion or a hobby?
I think that goes back to the time when I received my first pocket money and when I started working as a subtitle translator. I saw that I could make money through this with these skills, And after I graduated, I was registered with a few translation companies, but the workflow was really low, and I had to support myself. I was an English teacher at the university. But later I realized that like office or like full-time jobs are not really for me. I always wanted to do freelance job, and the easiest way to do that was through translation jobs. So you can do it anywhere in the world. You don't have to be confined in a office or anything, so you can just travel, do your job. And even when I was studying at the university, I remember saying one of my friends, say like, I'm gonna be a book translator one day. I'm not gonna be confined to any of the location or anything. And I became a translator, not just book translator, but translator of all sorts. Yeah.
Amazing. And tell us about how you took the decision to move to the UK, and what was the hardest part, both emotionally, but also about, just how you moved here and the process itself.
How I moved here, that's a good question. In 2020, one of my friends from the university came. He was already living in the UK 1 year before. So he said, so this is your last chance. The Brexit is happening soon, and we have a special arrangement between Turkey and the European countries. It's called Ankara Agreement, ECAA. So if you want to go abroad, so this is your last chance, just do it. And I said, how? I didn't have much savings. I always wanted to live abroad, in another country. And he said, just do it. Find some money from someone, from your parents, whatever, and just do it. I said, okay, it's easy for you to say. But then I started to consider, because, well, Turkey was not going somewhere good. There were like political issues, etc. I don't want to get into too much detail about it. And I wanted to leave Turkey because I was hoping for a better life, like everyone else, like all the immigrants, right? You leave your country for a better life, with the hope of a better life, like economically, politically, culturally, in every sense. And then I started, okay, I will do this. And I got my friend gave me his application details, blah, blah. I checked his business plan. So I wrote my business plan. And then I started to collect all the documentations, and I translated them myself. I was already a translator for like 7-8 years. So I had the background and the knowledge for it, and I set up my company in translation and tutoring. So, and suddenly all the paths started to open in front of me. Like when I decided to do that, the universe said, okay, you really want this? There you go. And then I took a loan from the bank, like half of my savings, and the other half was a loan from the bank. And then I came here during the COVID. Considering this now, retrospectively, it was a bit crazy thing to do, because you have no guarantee of job. It's during lockdown, everywhere is closed, and you're going to a new country. You don't have your family there. You don't have many friends. I just knew one person in the UK who became later my flatmate, and I just came, and I said, like, I'm 30 years old, and why not start a new life in the UK? And that's it.
I love that. How brave of you. And how brave that you came during the pandemic, when the situation was crazy, to call it.
I would call it like crazy more than brave. You're very kind to say that.
It is brave, for sure. Yeah. The situation was crazy, and for sure it was a good decision. Because the UK has quite a flourishing environment, both for translation and for interpreting, especially for interpreting, because there are so many expats in the UK. I think that the biggest expat community from all, countries is in the UK, in Europe. Which leads me to my next question. How did your career evolve from translation to interpreting?
Well, that's a good question. Like 80% of my jobs before I came to the UK was translation. So, and sometimes I had like rarely interpreting jobs, like at the factories, etc., like to give trainings to the employees. I was like the bridge between the trainers and the trainees, because they would come from different countries. But after I came to the UK, in the first 2-3 years, I worked as a visa consultant at an office, immigration office. And during that time, I completed my certifications. I registered with the translation and interpreting agencies. Here in the UK, the onboarding process can take like months, as you might know. They ask this and that, all these certificates, etc. You need to have an DBS check, blah blah. I had to wait for these certifications to be completed for like 6-7 months maybe after I came. And I was working at this office. By the meantime, I was improving myself, like attending courses, webinars, etc. And it took like a whole 2 or 3 years to have the enough workflow to become a freelance interpreter and translator again. So I realized that most of the jobs were interpreting jobs here, rather than just translation jobs, because all the courses need interpreters. NHS needs interpreters, like all the government institutions, because there's a great population of immigrants, especially the Turkish community in London. So I saw that, okay, most of the jobs are interpreting jobs. And I already had some experience in interpreting, and I started interpreting in social services sector, like for NHS, for children's services, etc. And then after 1 year, 1 or 2 years working for the same agency, they included me in the group for Ministry of Justice interpreters. So then I started taking court interpreting jobs, which pays much better than the other ones. And then I kept interpreting for the courts. It can be a bit stressful working at the courts, but you get used to it.
Yeah, that's a great story. Which leads me to the next question. Because you talked about the fact that you were, you had a steady job, and then you were taking slowly interpreting jobs. A lot of people are in the same situation, and they're quite afraid of, leaving their job for the unknown, or not knowing how many assignments you would get, and so on. What would you advise them to do, and what would you advise them to get a steady flow of assignments?
Well, first of all, if you're doing this job through agencies, if you're like individual, you don't have a company, etc., I would recommend all the interpreters and translators to register as many agencies as they can, so they can see the pay rate differences, their conditions, etc., because each agency has different condition for the translators. But if you're doing this as a business as your company, you need to advertise a lot. You need to go networking, meetings, etc. Make yourself known in your community, whatever language you are translating for, and build up relationships with people, have a client base. So it depends, like, are you talking about like on business wise as your own translation agency, or like a individual interpreter or translator?
Individual, I would say, because I think most of the interpreters that I come across
Mm-hmm.
are individual
Mm-hmm.
interpreters, so they're not known just yet as an agency,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's kind of the natural path to go from having a job to
Mm-hmm.
taking interpreting assignments and then becoming a bigger maybe hub for your language.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So if you are talking in the sense of individuals, well, register to as many agencies as you can, and also always attend the courses, register with a body like Chartered Institute of Linguists or ITI or AITI. Like there are many professional bodies in that sense, and they give you credibility, because in the UK everything works through like certifications, etc., and you need to be a part of one of the professional bodies, and also improve yourself. Get lots of certifications as much as you can. You can pass the test for DPSI, Diploma in Public Services Interpreting, or you can start from a lower step like community interpreting, level 1, level 2, level 3. So they can take these paths, they can improve themselves and apply to the agencies. But the sector is changing, the industry is changing. Sometimes they need a lot of interpreters for one language, and if you have a rare language, like you can be really lucky, you can get higher rates. For example, some African languages, some African dialects, they are very rare and they pay lots of money to these people. So this would be my advice to newcomers, new interpreters and translators. And I also I try to not to reject jobs, because once you start rejecting the jobs, the agencies won't send you many jobs because they look at you and they contact you one time, second time, third time, and you keep rejecting them. They will stop sending you jobs. And always keep your rate at a certain limit, don't go too low, so you can take many jobs, because it's not worth it. When you lower your rates too much, yes, you might have lots of jobs, but you can make this money to keeping your rate at a certain point and not doing like 10 jobs instead of 5 jobs, and you will get the same amount of money. So don't undersell yourself. This would be my advice. Yeah.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent advice. Thank you. Can we talk a little about court interpreting and community interpreting, since you mentioned both? Can you tell our audience how community and court interpreting is like, and how is a day of your life in both fields?
So in 2023, I was working as more like a community interpreter. I was going for family visits, for child services, social services, and to NHS appointments, etc. Well, they can be emotionally challenging, because you get to be part of the lives of people who are dealing with social services, child services, and if a social service worker is visiting your home, it means that there are some problems. I mean, in the sense of with your child, their custody, etc., or like separated partners, who's the child, who is going to take the custody of that child, or like the children were taken away from the family by the social services, and the mother and the father can see them once a week. So it is emotionally challenging for them and for you as well. When I first started, because I could see you can witness lots of family dramas in this kind of situations. For NHS, oh my God, on NHS is another story completely, because like people come, they talk to the psychologist, the doctor about their problems. So you need to be impartial, very impartial and objective, not get too emotional. But sometimes it's impossible, because we are all humans. You hear such stories that it is impossible to be impartial or unemotional, but you need to be professional, of course. Then later, the court interpreting jobs, well, they can be quite stressful because there's a very formal attire and attitude at the court, like the court etiquette. You need to address the judge and the barrister and like prosecutor, etc. It is a very serious environment, and you go to the court. Well, if it's like a magistrates or crown court, you need to swear in at the witness booth, and sometimes you might be called in front of the judge. Sometimes you might be waiting with the defendant in the booth on the background. Well, it depends. At first, I was very stressed when I first went to the court, but later you get used to it, and you need to be accustomed with many dialects also. English has not just one dialect, you know. English has many dialects, so you need to be quick to understand what they are saying and interpret, because the judges don't like the interpreters who asks for a repetition more than once. And it is a very formal and serious environment, but then you get used to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And are you, when you're in court, are you taking notes, or are you just using your memory?
You don't have much time to take notes because, no, I never took any notes at the course. So it depends on the circumstances. If it's if the defendant is called to the box, you are standing with them. The judge talks or the barrister talks 1 or 2 sentences. They wait for you, so you can consecutively interpret. And sometimes you need to wait in the booth with the defendant in the back of the courtroom, and even sometimes you might need to interpret simultaneously to the interpreter because they don't stop. It happens, and you can barely hear behind the glass. You're just approaching to the glass, trying to hear, talk to the defendant. Rarely, very rarely, they give you headphones for audio loop, so you can hear all the conversations inside the courtroom. But this happened to me once, and I said, "Oh, did you have audio loops? This device? Why no one ever gave that to me before?" Because it's so hard to try to hear the judge and the barrister at the other end of the courtroom and trying to interpret to the client on your side. So this might be quite challenging. So I didn't take much notes. Oh, sometimes this happens as well at family courts. On the back of the rows you sit with the clients, and they just talk, and you just whisper interpret to the client on your side. So it depends, but I didn't have much time to take notes. This happens, I take notes during remote interpreting sessions. It's much easier like that, yeah.
Right, because you're sat in front of your computer and you can take notes. That's really interesting, and this reminds me of my conversation with a French and Italian court interpreter last season. So we talked about the same challenges. How in the Paris courts they are, working the same, and how difficult it is to hear everybody, and how difficult it is to interpret, and that probably courts need better equipment. Like maybe they need like little booths or something for interpreters, which might make it easier to interpret. I wanted to ask you, I'm sure that by now you had a lot of court interpreting cases. What kind of cases stretched you the most professionally, without going into the sensitive details too much?
So domestic violence cases, generally sexual assault, domestic violence against women, those cases might be quite challenging I attended one hearing like that remotely, and I could only see the judge and the defendant. He was imprisoned. It was a sexual assault case, and they were very specific details. It was the final hearing, and the judge was announcing his verdict. And so the thing about court interpreting, you don't have any background knowledge about the cases. If it's not an ongoing multi-day booking, which is generally not, you just jump into this case. It could be like case management hearing, it could be, I don't know, pre-trial, trial, it could be final hearing. You just jump into it and they expect you to know like everything, like all the background, which is impossible. You don't know. You just hear whatever you hear and you translate. You try to translate verbatim. But sometimes it could be hard, because in that specific case, I would never forget, the judge was announcing his verdict, and he got into the details how the offense was committed. And at one point I just paused and I was a bit shocked. I mean, like, and I had to ask the judge to repeat the sentence, and he berated me actually. Look, Mrs. Interpreter, you need to listen to very carefully, because this is a very serious case, and please interpret, he said. Which was a very serious offense, and this was a very disheartening and overwhelming case. And I first started interpreting, like community interpreting as well. I witnessed like asylum seekers' stories. Some of them are fabricated, you could understand, but some of them are real. So one of them had an appointment with a psychologist at NHS, and I participated in that. Well, this might sound very unprofessional, but I am human too. I started crying in the middle of the session. The doctor didn't say anything. The client was telling his story, which was a horrible story. Like he was at the brink of suicide. And after I listened what he's been through, I started crying, because they were horrible stuff. So at the beginning, this happens when you just recently got into interpreting.
Mm-hmm.
But later you get used to it and you know how to detach yourself from these details, you know.
Yeah, it is difficult, and I think it's underrated how much emotional pressure this takes off interpreters. So I think that, you know, courts or, you know, judges and all the connected professionals there also need to understand that on interpreters it is quite tough. And I have exactly this time last year I filmed an episode with my friend Julia Popescu, who is a psychotherapist, both in Romania and in the UK. And I, you know, strongly encourage interpreters who are listening and watching to, just listen to that episode, because she talks a lot about how to unwind and how to detach yourself in those type of situations, and how to remain professional, but also at the end of the day, how to unwind and take some of that pressure away. Because I imagine those days when you're in court are quite stressful.
Yeah.
So what do you do in the evenings or in between to kind of detach yourself from the story?
Yeah, the first time I had this session, participate in that session with this client, I had to take a therapy session after that. So because I couldn't cope with it myself, and I have a therapist from Turkey, and I said I need an urgent session, and the next day I took a session with her, and I asked the same question, because the therapist and the psychologist, they have the same experience. They witness people's stories, they listen to them, and they can be very horrible experiences, these people, like with abuse, like hard challenging childhood, etc. And I asked her, like, how do you deal with this professionally? Like, how do you detach or distance yourself from people's experiences? And she said, in the first year of our studies, we take courses for that, like how we can detach ourselves from our clients' experiences. We haven't been trained for this. The thing is, I think, like there should be a mandatory course or something, like for the interpreters, how to detach themselves or how to stay impartial and objective, and how they can regain their mental health, basically, after challenging cases and experience. Because okay, you're serving as a bridge between two people, but also some of these experiences or words get stuck in your mind as well, because you are not a robot, you are not just a receiver or like transmitter or anything. So I think, unfortunately, the interpreters in the UK, we are not organized. We don't have any union or anything, but we are registered with many agencies, and we work on a freelance basis, not full time. We don't have much benefits, etc. But I think at least the agencies should give the opportunity to the interpreters to, some courses or some tools how to cope with them. What I do, if it's really challenging and it's really put me in a crisis situation, I take therapy. In other sense, like I do yoga, meditation, I go to the gym, I walk. So these are like some tools that you can use. But at the end of the day, you can always think, yes, this person or client had a terrible experience, but I got to be a part of this him or her trying to say or transmit what she has been through or he has been through. So now I got to be the voice of that person. You can always think like that. And the world is full of horrible things, but it's also full of beautiful things as well. So you need to keep the balance, you know.
No, I love that, and thank you for sharing your experience. I think it's really valuable for the interpreters listening. And you're right, maybe one of the benefits, if there is a benefit package of the translation agencies, should be this, especially if they want to keep working with the same people and keeping them in good mental health, because mental health is so important in any company nowadays. So I assume that this should be a priority for them as well. So maybe they're listening.
I hope so.
Hi there, it's Daniela. I'm just jumping in for a moment to remind you to subscribe and like the Translation podcast. Your support helps more people discover the show and keeps this content available for our community. Now, let's get back to the episode. What skills would you say turn a good interpreter into an excellent one in a legal setting?
I think being able to cope with stressful situations, first of all. Being quick-witted, because you need to be really quick when you're interpreting. You don't have the time to let me check from the Google what that word means. I can't remember. You don't have such a time at the court. So and you need to have very, very expanded vocabulary. I'm still learning the legal terms, for example. So because legal setting and legal terminology is completely different than other terminologies. So you can always specialize in one area, and you can delve into deeper and deeper in that area. And I think the modern day requires us to do so. They want us to be specialized in that one setting or one area. And I don't know, you need to be instant, quick, and you need to have amazing language skills in both languages, or how many languages you're interpreting to or from, and you can always learn more and more and more. There's no end to it, even though you've been translating or interpreting for 10 years, there's always a new word that you can learn, always a new phrase that you are learning. For example, what I do at the hearings or during the interviews, before the hearings, after the hearings with the solicitor, sometimes they use an idiom, an English idiom, and I'm not really sure about that idiom, but I take it from the context. You might not know a word, but you can deduce it from the context, you know. So I interpret like that, but I took a note of this, note it down, and when I have the time, I check what it means and like be certain if I know it correctly. So what I would recommend, after each hearing, you can note down some words and you can check them after you go home when you have time, and like renew your memory. Memory is very important for interpreting, because whatever is talked there, like 1 sentence, 3 sentence, 5 sentence, you need to have a very good memory, short-term memory, retention, being able to memorize or remember what is being talked by the client or other parties.
There's a lot to unpack there, and for sure the more we talk about court interpreting, the more I realize that it is closer to simultaneous interpreting than consecutive, because in consecutive you have time to take notes and think about maybe for a millisecond what the equivalent would be. But the downside to it is that in simultaneous interpreting you have a partner who can write some things down for you, so I think it's even more complicated. I wanted to ask, how did you learn this court terminology, or what would you advise the people who want to, the interpreters who want to learn this terminology outside of the DPSI course? Because I imagine the DPSI course is very short-lived. You learn just a part of the terminology.
Well, there is like good terminologies and glossaries in that courses. You can take from many different suppliers, not just from one place. You can also check the depository of European Union interpreting depository. So if you want to practice or improve your interpreting skills, they have videos, so you can download or just access online those videos and you can practice with them. So for terminology, legal terminology, sometimes I even use ChatGPT, ChatGPT. We will come to AI in the next questions, I think, but it can be really helpful. So for example, I check legal terminologies from the internet. They are all English, of course, but I need their Turkish translation. So you can either download them and find them one by one, but also you can use the help of ChatGPT. Just upload it and ask like, can you translate these words for me? Put them next to each other and put an explanation to them, and you can then check it yourself, like if they're correct or not. So it will accelerate your time. It will give you more time, because it won't take like 5 hours. Instead, it might take 2 hours to do that. So and there are many great resources over the internet, like Interpreters Hub websites, like I said, like European Union Depository, and you can even practice through some YouTube videos over the internet. So I think I saw one for the interpreters to practice for the exams. But the course is very helpful because it's more methodical, more organized, and you can download many resources from the course as well. What I would recommend to sign up for a course, and it would be like easier to do that in that way, I think.
Agreed. And you can continue to learn as you go, and nowadays you can even record your interpreting session with your phone and then download the file. And there are so many AI tools. ChatGPT is one of them, who can take that transcript and help you build a glossary
Exactly.
against it. There are so many good ones. Google has some recent really good research AIs or language learning modules. So yeah, look them up and use AI for glossary building. I think we used to spend so much time. I remember when I was doing simultaneous interpreting and conference interpreting, I was spending so much time. I mean, to prep for a week in booth, I was preparing at least for 1 week to do all the research and to prepare my glossary. So nowadays it's so much easier.
So much easier, yeah.
And by the way, fun fact, so today we're filming close to Wimbledon, where the European Commission had their interpreters here located during the pandemic, so they were interpreting live from the studio.
Back to the motherboard.
Yes, it all comes
mothership.
Yes, it's all interconnected, right?
Yeah.
Right now. So going back to opening different doors and seeing how things connect together. So talking about the emotional strain, how do you stay neutral when you're hearing very difficult things in court? Like in that moment, how do you train your mind or try to disassociate from what's being heard?
I think it comes with experience. When I first started, it was really hard because I'm an emotional person, and I would feel really upset and sad for these people. But this is a job, you need to be professional. You can't be upset for like everyone's stories, and in many ways you are helping these people, so becoming a part of the story, becoming their voices. So this is the best you can do, and being professional, impartial and objective will help the person that you're interpreting for. If you become emotional, this won't benefit anyone, It won't be good for your job, for yourself. It won't be good for the client. It won't be good for the hearing or the court. So I was very emotional at the beginning, but later, let's not say I became like heartless, but I started to see this as more like a job. So after the end of the day, I reset my mind. Basically, whatever is said or done in that courtroom, I just forget all about it, reset it, and then I start a new day. Yeah.
I love that. That's a great mindset. And you've made this parallel before with therapists. I think it's a similar setting. And yeah, I think all those are great advice. And I also resonated with what you said, that it's good to have a therapist there, and not to bottle things up, so that you can talk at least to someone about it, because you can't really talk about these confidential cases with anyone in your entourage, nor would they maybe understand. So that's really good. Okay, let's talk a bit about business, because being a translator or interpreter is owning a business. So we are all small business or medium or large business owners. What has been the hardest lesson about turning a profession into a business?
Well, I might say the taxes.
Our favorite topic this week.
The taxes. So, when you have a business, you need to think more business-like, of course, more corporate-like, and you have expenses and you have taxes that you need to pay. You need to catch up with those, and you need to advertise and show yourself to the community. Well, I haven't put many advertisements lately. To be honest, I need to start doing that to expand my business. But you get to see the business side of the job, because you've been always working as an individual, like a sole trader or whatever that might be. But then when you have a limited company, small or medium size, you get to see the business size. You start thinking in a more business sense, like not just as a worker or employee, as a business owner. You start to think like, how can I expand my business? How can I increase my income? What can I do to cut down the expenses? So normally I would never think of these things before I had a company. I would do my job, get paid, and that's it. So like
and survive the day.
Yeah, survive the day, survive the month, and that's it. But now you start thinking like more long term, and you want to expand your business, I don't know, in 5 years, or generate a passive income. So the way you look at things, your vision changes basically when you become a company owner. Yeah.
Right. No, I'm absolutely with you there. And how can you scale your business from being a solopreneur or an interpreter outside working more hours in a day, but scaling it towards getting more, direct clients? Or how would you approach it?
I think to get direct clients, you need visibility, especially in social media and in the right settings. So you need to show yourself, you need to build up relationships with people, connections, network. So we have a big community, Turkish people here in the UK, like 500,000 almost. So I didn't do that much. I finally have some time to do that because I was working full time, I was doing translation, etc. So for the last one and a half year, I have time, basically managing my own time. I can do that. Everyone can do that actually. And you need to show yourself. And I think at the end of the day, just having online visibility is not enough. Maybe you need to hire an office. So because some clients, especially I'm talking for Turkish clients, they are old-fashioned. They want to come and see you. They want to hand shakes and sit in front of you and talk to you. They want to build that rapport, face-to-face rapport. Of course, you can find clients through groups, like attending business events, etc. But you need physical presence as well. At the end of the day, for my client base, I can say that, because they love to see people and talk to, and like in front of you, not just online, not just the voice over the phone, or not just some words over the email. People need connection at the end of the day. So we are all like humans, and we need connection. And when they trust you, you know that whenever they need a translation or interpreting job, they will call you. Once you build that trust between your client, because I can talk in Turkish people sense, they are very loyal customers. Once they trust you, that's it. You are their interpreter and translator. So,
and they will recommend you.
Yeah, they will recommend you. Yes, exactly. Like word of the mouth. They will, I have an interpreter, you should work with her, she's really nice, blah blah blah. And sometimes your colleagues might refer you. For example, I have a friend like that who lives in Newcastle upon Tyne. She is an interpreter and translator as well, but whenever there's a job in London, because she doesn't live here, she always refers me or suggests me. So I think it's about building connections, not just business network, but building connections, and you never know where that connection might take you in the future. For example, there's one lady who contacted me yesterday. She's in a marriage that she wants to leave, and she's been subject to domestic violence, and she has a child, and she wants to divorce, but she doesn't have money. And she said I don't know how much I can pay you, blah blah. And I said, I will do this for pro bono. I don't ask any money from you. And she was, oh my God, thank you so much, God bless you, blah blah. I said, don't bother about it, just leave that horrible relationship, and that's enough for me. So it's 4 or 5 pages. It will take maybe 2 hours, 3 hours for me, but it will maybe save her from a horrible relationship. So sometimes we need to not just look at as a business or money. Sometimes we need to look as a human as well, not just client. This is a human, you know. And sometimes if you have time and capacity to do that, you can help people. Sometimes I do that, to be honest. Like, not everything is money for me. You know, if I see a person who needs help because they don't have language skills, because there's a language barrier for most of the immigrants here in the UK, and if they don't have the money to pay or anything, why not?
I love that. I think that's amazing of you. I think a lot of translators and interpreters do that as well, because we encounter a lot of situations that are like that, and it's kind of noble to be in that position where you can help and give back. And I absolutely agree with what you said about visibility and connection and networking. I had the same experience with the Romanian community once I started to network, and people started to see me and work with me, and even, you know, some of them give up the translators that they have been working with just to work with me, just because they wanted to. So not because I asked them to, but just because they saw me. So there's this snowball effect. And there are a lot of things that we can tap in the UK, both, you know, the British community as well as our, you know, Turkish or Romanian communities. So there is a lot of work to do there. And at the same time, you know, coming from this digital marketing background, I think we shouldn't undermine the necessity of being present online.
Exactly.
Having a professional website, being present online so that people can see you, and having little videos online is changing so much, because people can feel you and they can feel that you're genuine. And that means a lot, because unfortunately there are also a lot of, you know, scammers out there in all the countries. So I think for new people, just, you know, being able to see you having reviews on your website or on your Google profile is important. But there's a lot that can be done there. And by the way, for those of us listening, the first episode of this season with Joe Lepine talks exactly about that, how we can scale the business, and on top of everything that we discussed, being present online, networking, meeting people where they are, and meeting clients where they are, being, you know, in the legal field, or, you know, tapping on their door, or just getting appointments with them. Also potentially getting a business coach, because scaling a business means that you want to take yourself out of, you know, the operational aspect, and be hiring some people to help
do the job.
This is something that I also need to do. So also the admin part. Those of you who have a small business know that we tend to do everything. So just freeing up time for scaling and for reaching out to direct clients and customers, because working for agencies is great, but it's not scalable. And we know that with AI, and we'll transition to questions about AI as well, and interpreting has taken a little, let's say, chunk of the interpreting and mostly translation orders. A lot of the people that I talk to ask about that. How are we? How can we ride this, you know, AI wave? So I wanted to ask you, Naz, in the interpreting world, how would you see this connection between AI and interpreting? Is this fear overstated, especially in the legal field? Do you see connections between how, you know, AI can help us? Has there been any shift in the interpreting world? And the reason why I'm asking now, and I'll just say this, on one of the summits that I participated to a few weeks ago, they were saying that not necessarily in the legal field, but for some conferences, some agencies have started to use AI interpreting. And it was terrible. I imagine in the legal field it's a bit impossible to, or it is impossible to do that. But how would you see this connection between AI and interpreting in the legal settings?
Well, yeah, this is a really nice question, actually. Well, I don't think they can be used in the legal settings at the courtroom right now, where considering where the AI is, because it's like okay, in translation, it's getting better and better each day. I can say that.
Yes.
Yeah, we all know that, and we accept that. And yes, it is taking translation jobs as well. Or most of the translation jobs, they're evolving into MTPE, machine translation, post-editing jobs. And I've been doing this for like more than 3 years for some agencies. They have their own glossaries, they have their own database, they are standardizing the translation and everything. That's fine. Yes, it's evolving, and I think new kind of jobs will emerge out of this, because it's like in the late 90s, the internet came, right? Before the internet, the translators would use like physical dictionaries. So, and did it change the whole sector? Did it eradicate the translation business? No, it just evolved, you know. Are we still translating? Are we still interpreting? Yes. Like with the coming of internet, did all these jobs disappear? No, it just changed the way it is done. You need to learn how to use computer skills, computer literacy came, the glossaries came, like an immense source of like language sources came with the internet, coming of the internet, because I remember my father was a translator before me, like 40 years ago. He said, like, I used to do the dubbing and subtitling of the series called Dallas. Maybe you heard of that.
Yes.
And and he said I had to use the lip sync. I had to do the lip sync because in Turkish it's very different than the English, right? But they need to be synced with the lips of these people, like acting in the series. And I had like big, huge like dictionaries, and I would take them, type them in the typewriter. So very archaic. It sounds very archaic right now. No, but 40 years ago, that's how they used to work. So today there are no translators. 40 years later. No, we are still here, no? We are still doing this job somehow, and they still need human mind to translate or like interpret. They need still humans monitor and check what AI is doing. So I can say this: if one day AI becomes capable and skilled enough to do interpreting jobs, court interpreting jobs, then it can perform any other profession. That will be the end of our time, that like human race time, like in Matrix. So they could perform surgeries, then they could become like barristers then. But no, because all this knowledge, AI is a knowledge-based system, no? It doesn't have the creativity or like humans' mind to incorporate things all together. It's not there yet. Maybe it will be there in 20 years or 10 years or 5 years, I don't know. But right now it's not there yet. And also it needs human interpretation, not just like translating word. We need to interpret the context, what the person is saying. They can use idioms. They could be crying and talking at the same time. They are training the AI right now to do that, like with human voice, etc. But I don't think it's there yet. So when it comes to that point, then all the jobs will be taken by the AI, like photography, editing, social media management, everything could be done by the AI then. So I don't think we are there yet. But when it comes to that point, then we will have to evolve and improve our skills, maybe become like AI experts, AI specialists, or AI engineers. These jobs are emerging right now. So we will think about it when it comes to that point. But in legal setting, no, I don't think AI is there yet, because there's this problem. A courtroom full of people, English speakers, the judge, the barrister, blah, 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 and one defendant with the other language. So if the AI interprets what the defendant or the other people say wrongly, who's gonna monitor that? Who's gonna monitor AI's accuracy and truthfulness? What is said there? So there's no such a control mechanism at the moment. No one can do that.
No, we're not there yet, and maybe we'll never be. And AI will stay just a tool for humans. That is how I, see it.
Yeah.
We'll see. For now, you're right. We have to stay close to the field and see what's going on, and learn from different settings and different things that are happening around. So Naz, if someone is sitting at home right now, unsure about their future, if they want to become interpreters, what would you tell them about choosing this profession? Why would they choose it?
So be prepared for sometimes job insecurity, because some days you might have like 10 jobs in the same day, and the next day you might have no jobs. So it's very fluctuating. You need to be very adaptable to the change, to the stressful circumstances, challenging circumstances. You need to be good at crisis management, time management, and of course, and you need to be very much in command in the languages that you interpret to and from. So read lots of books, improve yourself. I come from a translation generation. First I started as a translator, then I started interpreting. But there are many people who study interpreting, especially simultaneous interpreting, conference interpreting, and they just start right from that point onwards. So what I could say, just train yourself, whether through university or courses, online courses, or participating in webinars of the professional bodies. I wouldn't say no, don't get into this business, because most of the translators say that no, it's done, it's finished, the translation or interpreter sector is finished, don't come. Why? Of course not, because people will always need qualified interpreters and translators. I'm saying qualified, not just like people who are bilingual. Being bilingual doesn't necessarily mean that you can interpret. It's not the same thing. So I think there will always be a demand for really good and qualified interpreters and translators. And for the next generation, I would recommend, don't be disheartened, don't give up, don't lower your rates rates or anything. If you want to get into the sector, and I see some young graduates, new graduates on LinkedIn, they are saying, I'm looking any kind of job, any job, it doesn't matter, you don't need to give. If you want to do this, you can do volunteer jobs, if you want to improve yourself. Don't work for agencies for peanut, very little money, just do it as a volunteer, so you can put it in your portfolio and in your CV. Don't undersell yourself. That's the only thing I can say, because I undersold myself when I first started my career, and I really regret that. I shouldn't have done that,
Yeah, because it puts you in a tough spot, right? Where it's very difficult to ask for more when you were asking for less. And taking a course or being in the university means that you're studying, so you're using your time, you're investing a lot of your time.
Exactly.
Which needs to be given back at the same time. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And how has the interpreting career given you freedom than the other professions might not? And how are you filling up your cup creatively? Because going back to art and translation books and your passions, how are you filling your cup?
My feeling, first of all, it gave me immense freedom, mobility. I was not bound to any location and I was a translator, freelance translator. I remember like all summer I was traveling with my laptop in my bag, just translating near the seaside, translating for like 2 hours, then going for a swim, coming back, and I had like great freedom, and I still do have. But interpreting is not like that. You need to be like present physically at the courthouse. You need to be in that city or wherever you are interpreting for. But it's amazing, you know. You can do translation jobs wherever you go, any part of the world. So my future plan is setting up a business that I would take like enough income of translation jobs, delegating those jobs, and I can live in Thailand maybe, or in South America 6 months of the year and 6 months of the year here. So this is my dream for the next 5 years. So I never liked being bound to a certain place, to be honest. It's like I have a very nomadic soul. So and this job gave me that freedom throughout the years, and I hope it will still give me in the future. Yeah, against all the odds, everything like changing, AI, etc. We will find other ways to generate income with the help of AI, not against AI, hopefully.
Right. I love that. We're all digital nomads at heart, for sure.
Yeah.
And what do you do creatively?
Creatively, what I do, I'm drawing, sketching. I like Renaissance style. Like 1 or 2 years ago, I used to go to this Victorian Albert Hall Museum every Sunday with my like arts teacher, and we would just draw the Renaissance sculptures. David, especially, I like David's sculpture. It's very nice, and some like early Renaissance, late Renaissance sculptures. Other than that, sometimes I write. Because I always think that someday, if I put enough effort, I will write a book and publish it, maybe in 5 years or 10 years, I don't know. Sometimes I write. I like writing. This is how I feel connected to the creativity, because like legal or technical interpretation can be very deductive, you know, can be boring sometimes because it's like lack of originality or creativity. So I try to do that. Sometimes I go to the other museums to draw. Sometimes I do it at home, watercolors. Sometimes I do, but I haven't done them for a while, so I will get back to it soon, probably. To find my creative side. Yeah,
I love that, and I love the Victorian Albert Museum. Such a little nice museum. If you get to visit London, you have to absolutely put it on your list.
Exactly.
Naz, thank you so much for joining today. This has been such a heartfelt session for me. I admire you for your courage, for your bravery.
Thank you.
For everything that you've done in the past years to, you know, become not only a great interpreter, but also to grow your business, because it's not an easy task.
Exactly.
So I commend you for it. And for those of you listening, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the show. If you're listening on Spotify, please follow and give us a rating. That helps this podcast reach other audiences. And Naz, any final words for those who are listening?
Thank you first of all for inviting me and giving the chance to talk about interpreting and translation and AI and everything. It's amazing, and I always love talking to you. So I didn't even realize that it's been more than an hour. So thank you for this opportunity, and it was lovely talking about these topics with you. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine.